Greetings and welcome to the channel. This is Mikhailov from Team Retrogue, where we like retro games and the devices that bring them to us. This device is the MSI Claw, an x86 handheld with an Intel Ultra 7 processor. Us handheld enthusiasts are used to AMD Ryzen chips in these handhelds. But not here. We're rocking an Intel chip, and it is both exciting and upsetting at the same time. I'm going to touch on why that is, what this device can do, and we'll see if the Claw is worth your hard-earned $100. So let's jump in, and let's get to work. Now before we talk about the unit, let's talk charging. You probably have a bunch of charging cables, and they probably look clumsy and messy like this. Well, a company called Magtame sent me these magnetic cables, and they've actually worked really well. You can expand them to use them, and thanks to the built-in magnets, you can roll them up afterwards, and they will stay that way. I tried them out with the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro and the MSI Claw, and they worked perfectly with my portable 65 watt-hour battery pack. They are a bit more expensive than usual, but if you hate cable management, they might be worth your time. I'll leave affiliate links as well as a 10% off coupon in the video description if you are interested in these cables. Now let's talk about the MSI Claw itself. The Claw can be purchased at Best Buy with a shipment and arrival time of around April 5th, which is next week. I actually purchased my unit from Newegg, which originally showed up as back-ordered, but I received it on the 19th of March. Currently on Newegg, the Intel 7 units are listed as back-ordered, but the Intel 5 units are listed as in stock. Now let's go ahead and ride our mount into Spectown. The MSI Claw comes with an Intel Core Ultra 5 or 7, depending on which unit you purchase. All units ship with an Intel Arc GPU and a 2230 M.2 SSD of either 512 gigabytes or 1 terabyte. There is also expansion via a micro SD card slot. The Claw has 16 gigabytes of LP DDR5 RAM and a 7-inch 1080p IPS screen. This screen has a refresh rate of 120 Hz and is a variable refresh rate screen. The system comes with Hall effect sticks and triggers. There is a 53 watt-hour battery, one USB-C port that is capable of display out, and LED lights around the joysticks and on the face buttons. The Claw has front-facing dual speakers, and for connectivity has Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 5.4. Finally, the MSI Claw ships with Windows 11 Home. Alright, time for the unboxing. The box is pretty impressive. MSI spared no effort on the marketing for the packaging. Inside, the first thing that you're going to see is a manual saying that you have to plug the unit in before turning it on for the first time. Pretty standard for these x86 handhelds. This quick guide also advises you to do a Windows update and update through MSI Center M before playing any games on this device. This was smart of them to do because this device will most likely get better over time. So if you buy this unit something like 6 months from its release date, you will have to update quite a bit to get the best experience. Let's go ahead, set aside the unit itself, and we'll take a quick look at the rest of the packaging. There's another quick guide, as well as a customer service contact card, and here is a beefy 65 watt charging brick. I find it very odd that MSI decided to go with a full laptop charger with 2 parts for this device, but I kind of get it at the same time. This is not travel friendly at all, but if you have a spot in your house you plan on plugging this device into to play it when the battery gets low, you will have plenty of cord slack, so it can reach pretty much anywhere you're sitting depending on where you plug it in. Taking our usual quick tour of the device, we'll start with the trigger and bumpers. The triggers are fine, they seem to have a good amount of travel. The bumpers, on the other hand, are oddly mushy. They're not bad, but they require more force to actuate than I'm used to. After a while, I adjusted, but still an odd design choice there. Moving to the top of the device, we have a power button with built-in fingerprint sensor, a micro SD card slot, the USB-C port, the words True Gaming along the top, because why not? A 3.5mm headphone jack, and your volume rockers. Moving to the front of the device, we have one of the oddest D-pads I've ever seen on an x86 handheld. Like seriously, this whole thing just kind of clicks in. I don't think there's a function to having the whole D-pad click in, but nonetheless, here we are. Odd as it feels, it is serviceable. The best way for me to demonstrate is with a Street Fighter game. And you could see I'm moderately successful in pulling off these special attacks. Again, I adjusted to this D-pad, but it struck me as odd, just like the design choice for the bumpers struck me as odd. Also on the front of the device are Start, Select, a custom MSI Center button, a Quick Settings button, and the backlit face buttons, all serviceable and fine. In fact, the face buttons are just as big as the buttons on an Xbox controller. And I really appreciate that MSI decided to go with full-size buttons here as opposed to baby buttons. The joysticks, as mentioned before, are Hall sensor joysticks, and there are 2 front-facing speakers, which sound pretty good. No complaints there. The back of the unit features cooling. That's it. Nothing but fans back here. In fact, you could say the back of the unit is only fans. Get it? Jokes aside, MSI is serious about keeping this thing cool. And I think it's working because I personally never felt this device get hot at all. There are also 2 function buttons on the back which, like the ROG Ally, aren't very programmable. They basically serve as hotkey and macro shortcuts, and they're also just stiff enough that you can rest your hands on them without accidentally pressing them. Now let's power this thing on and take a look at the MSI Center software. Now this app is a little bit buggy in the sense that my Windows taskbar kept popping up on what is supposed to be a full screen app. But other than that, this software is honestly the best Windows handheld software from a major company to date. Like the ROG Ally, there are several presets for TDP scenarios based on the type of game you're playing, along with a manual setting and an AI engine setting that attempts to learn how much power it needs to draw based on the gaming situation you put it in. I did all of my testing with the AI engine setting, and we'll talk about that in a bit. In the settings, you can also adjust the lighting. However, I did expect you to be able to choose a different color for the lighting around the joysticks and the face buttons. And sadly, it's all or nothing. The best you can do is set the joysticks to have the rainbow effect and then set a color for the face buttons. So that's what I ended up doing. Hopefully, this will be fixed in a software update. You can also adjust some audio settings and perform driver updates from this menu. MSI Center M also has a bunch of shortcuts to some major gaming storefronts like the Xbox Store and Steam, and you could simply click the button to open your gaming platform of choice. If you haven't installed it yet, the software will bring you to a web page where it can install the program. This is really nice, but I wish I could delete shortcuts for front ends I don't use. The software will scan and add your game libraries right from the app, and you could add your own software shortcuts manually. For me, I was able to put Emulation Station Desktop Edition and 14 Launcher right into the app, and I could launch them from here without ever having to go into desktop mode. The right button opens up your quick settings where you can control volume, brightness, and power. You can also customize your shortcuts, such as changing the resolution, the power profile, pulling up the keyboard, and even some functions that I haven't seen in a software before, like choosing what to do with external monitors. While this device does not have a dedicated Xbox button like the ROG Ally, the One X Fly, or the AYN Loki, you can at least set an end task button to the quick settings menu. That is how I generally close out my programs when I'm done with them on this device. The thing I like about this software is that that it's very snappy. In other devices, I have seen sloppy front ends, the quick settings menu not showing up during gameplay, but with this device, these menus came up every time I called upon them, no matter what situation I was in, such as a full screen game versus a borderless windowed game. MSI Center M works well enough that I didn't feel the need to set up Play Night or Steam Big Picture. I just loaded any PC game I wanted to play from the MSI software, and if I wanted to emulate, I booted up Emulation Station Desktop Edition. It all just worked, and there's something to be said when software just works. Now let's get into some gameplay testing. And here is where I was both impressed and disappointed in this device. While every gaming experience I had on this handheld was some of the most impressive looking gaming that I've seen in a long time, it was also very short-lived. Take Breath of the Wild running on the CMU emulator using the FPS++ mod. I can get a very beautiful and impressive 45 frames per second this way, and I'm sure I could go higher, but I felt that the game was super smooth at this frame rate, so I didn't want to push the system more than I had to. Using the AI engine preset, I was super impressed to find the game never dipped below the 45 FPS marker. It maintained that gorgeous frame rate throughout my entire game session, which came to an abrupt end after only 2 hours. The next game I tried was Final Fantasy XIV, and I usually settle for a 40 FPS cap when I'm playing this game on something like the Steam Deck, but since this device's minimum setting is at a 20 watt TDP, 5 watts more than the Steam Deck's maximum of a 15 watt TDP, I decided I would see if I can maintain a steady 60 frames per second while running a dungeon. Well, I didn't. But I also didn't dip below 55 frames per second, and the game looks smoother than any other device I currently own. It was a very fun experience that was again cut short after only 2 hours. Now, I'm not the type of person who is good at going into benchmarks and all that, but a great human being who needs no introduction, Rob, the Retro Tech Dad, went into complete overtime testing both versions of the MSI Claw against both versions of the ROG Ally, and the Ally came out on top in all of his benchmarks and tests. I'll leave a link in the video description to Rob's channel so you can check out these videos for yourself. But these tests that he ran bring up a serious argument for getting an ROG Ally over the MSI Claw, because you can find the Ally Z1 open box for about $300 at Best Buy. And even if you can't get it open box, you can still get it for $400, which is half the cost of the MSI Claw. So why get the Claw at all if you can get a similarly performant device for half the price of the Claw's MSRP? I actually think that once MSI and Intel update the drivers and software on the Claw, over time, we are actually going to be saying similar things about this device that we are currently saying about the ROG Ally, but by then, there will be new Ryzen devices out. This puts MSI in a very weird position with this handheld, and I am concerned that it's not going to retain its value. Let's go ahead and test one more game, and this time we're going to do some lower powered emulation. Here is a surprisingly disturbing ROM hack called Pokemon Unbound. This ROM hack involves you getting your starter Pokemon by freeing them from a cage and evil villains using Houndoom to incinerate their subordinates. Yikes. It took a while for the Claw to decide what to do with this game, but ultimately it settled on drawing 15 watts of total power from the device, which means that it should last longer than the 2 hours I was getting from more power-hungry PC games. Now it's time to wrap things up with my final thoughts. As always, we'll start with the positives. I do like the face buttons on this device. I like that they are full-sized and that they light up. The MSI Center software is one of the most impressive handheld management programs that I have seen in a long time, and it just worked no matter what game I was playing. While I didn't test the most powerful of games, the ones I did play on this device looked really impressive and maintained their frame rate with little to no dips. The device was overall comfortable to hold, and it never felt hot or loud thanks to that abundance of vents and cooling. But of course, no device is perfect, and that statement couldn't be more true in the case of the MSI Claw. This device should not have the abysmal battery life that it has, but the device should also not be drawing the power that it is. There's definitely something weird going on here with the power draw, and I'm hoping that 6 months from now, I end up making an updated video saying that they did a whole bunch of software updates and they updated the drivers and it fixed all of my concerns with this device. I really want to make that video. I also hope that MSI lets us set different colors for the face buttons and the joystick LEDs in the future. I have waited too long for a device with light up buttons for my creativity to be stifled. Which leads to my final point. This device is a release model that I purchased with my own money, and I feel like it needed more time in the oven. It feels rushed, but I'm hesitant to criticize it too much based on this because the ROG Ally was also rough around the edges when it released. And while I understand that technology moves fast and companies need to get these devices into consumer hands as fast as possible to turn a profit, I am not a fan of spending my hard-earned Dollarbucks on an incomplete device. However, I also maintain my cautious optimism that the MSI Claw could have a lot of potential once these issues are ironed out. If you were to ask me right now, at time of recording, if the MSI Claw is worth your money, I would definitely say no. But in 6 months? Yeah, it might be. There is a good foundation here, but it needs more build time. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Is this a device you are considering? Do you have one? And what do you think is the best use case for a device like this? I plan on doing some additional performance showcases with the MSI Claw in future videos, so let me know what games you would like to see performing on this device. And please feel free to continue the conversation in the Retro Handhelds and the Steam Machine Discords, where you can find me hanging out in between videos. And if you want to support the show like these wonderful people on the screen, you can do so by going to my Patreon page. Links for all of these places are in the description. But that'll do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and please be sure to like and subscribe if this video was helpful to you in any way. Every smash of that button helps the channel grow and allows me to get more content out to you. But until next time, bye for now, and don't stop believing.